Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and the Washington Commanders just received a package of bad news. We got to talk about how Terry McLaurin is reportedly frustrated over contract disputes, and it's officially reaching some type of maybe boiling point. And also, apparently, the Los Angeles Chargers are checking in on Terry. They're eyeing him. We're going to talk about all of that, of course. And also, the Washington Commanders have a couple of injuries. And we got to keep an eye on Eddie Goldman, who's already retired from football twice. But before we get into everything, of course, I have a trivia question for you. What uniform did Mike Bass, who started every game at cornerback from 1969 to 1975, wear for Washington? I'm going to give you the answer to that at the end of the video. But before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative, independent video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this immediately. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so I first saw this from Sleeper Commanders. He tweeted, per Jordan Schultz, Terry McLaurin has made it clear that he is unhappy with how his contract negotiations are proceeding. He said, let's get this deal done. And now let's go to the actual source. You have Jordan Schultz himself, the Starbucks heavyweight champ himself, that said sources. Commanders All-Pro wide receiver Terry McLaurin has made it clear to the team that he's frustrated with the lack of progress on a long-term deal. And that's interesting too. Like, when you say made it clear, is that just him, you know, kind of reaching and saying like Terry McLaurin was like actually frustrated, like he voiced it personally, like I'm like out loud to him, I'm frustrated with what's going on over here? Or is he just making a wild guess just off of the fact that Terry McLaurin has not shown up to the last couple of practices? You know, has made it clear to the team that he's frustrated is very gray, very general. Who knows exactly what he means by that? Does that sound like Terry McLaurin stormed into Adam Peters' office and told him off? Or is that just he hasn't been to a couple of practices and we're just assuming that he's frustrated on a long-term deal? Also, as I previously reported, Terry McLaurin unexpectedly left voluntary workouts after initially attending, and that's true. He was there for all of phase 1, half of phase 2, and then he missed the second half of phase 2 and has not been to phase 3 yet. Terry McLaurin unexpectedly left voluntary workouts after initially attending, and it remains to be seen whether he'll report for mandatory minicamp. Now that one, he's super stirring up trouble there. Even though that is a fair question, but you can see what he's doing. You can tell that he's like, hey, you know, these are voluntary, of course, but who knows? He may miss the mandatory stuff as well. This starts June 10th. Who knows? I'm just throwing that out there. You never know. Watch out. He also finished by saying Terry McLaurin is entering the final year of his contract and talks have been minimal. I don't know what his source is on the minimal. Talks have been minimal is a pretty strong wording right there. As if like Adam Peters and those guys are just ignoring him. Like they're almost treating him like how the Bengals are treating Trey Hendrickson, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. But shouts out to Jason Over the Cap over there, and you know that is literally Jason from the website Over the Cap. He tweeted, definitely can understand Terry McLaurin's frustration. Top 15 wide receiver by annual salary are all players who signed extensions. Most were resolved by June. That's an interesting point there. And when you're looking at Terry McLaurin's contract, right now, he's a $25.5 million cap hit. I believe he's like our second most expensive player, only behind Deron Payne, which even further proves why Deron Payne, it's time to dominate. Not just play well, we need you to dominate. You're like the most expensive player on the team. You're even more expensive than Terry McLaurin is right now. More expensive than, of course, Jaden on a rookie deal, but Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, all of these really good players. Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvusa, Deron Payne. I know we're talking about Terry right now, but that just reminded me, you need to ball out this year. But either way, going back to Terry, again, he's on the last year of his deal. He has $25.5 million worth of a cap hit. That's quite a bit, but that's still not a lot compared to a lot of the other wide receivers in the NFL. Shouts out to Brett Coleman. He brings up a good point. Remember, folks, Terry McLaurin is already 30 years old, and yet he's the 16th highest paid wide receiver, and that's probably going to be, with this new contract, his last window to get a top 10 contract. This won't be resolved without him getting paid, in my opinion. And if you take a look on the screen right now, when you're looking at annual value of contracts right now, he's getting paid less than Michael Pittman, even Deebo Samuel, who we traded a 5th round pick for, Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, and then of course T. Higgins, who just got paid his big money. But at the end of the day, he's a really good wide receiver too, but he's still a wide receiver too. Then you have Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, you know what I'm saying? He had like a really good couple of seasons, but he's super hurt. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I can see that. So I'm thinking we're going to get somewhere around the Amon-Ra St. Brown range. But even DK Metcalf, I love his talent, but like definitively better than Terry, I don't know. But you know, every time a new person signs a contract, they try to reset the market or at least get close to it. So there's a reason why this is not a ranking of the best receivers in the NFL. This is purely just a ranking of the best money. That doesn't directly correlate. There is some sort of a correlation there. It's like a squiggly line going up, but the line is very squiggly. But at the end of the day, man, Terry McLaurin, whenever he does get his money, which I'm confident in, I'm thinking he's definitely going to be somewhere. He's going to reach the 30s. I think he's going to be above T. Higgins, somewhere probably around where Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are, somewhere in like the flat 30, maybe even 31, maybe right behind AJ Brown and DK Metcalf and CeeDee Lamb and those guys. We'll see. I think this is a really interesting situation, though. I'm really curious what the numbers are. And again, I feel like an important context, which I've been talking about for months now, is the fact that with the age that he's at, like Brett Coleman just said, but again, I've been saying this for months, this is probably the last super duper contract he's gonna get, because by the end of this one, he'll probably be 33 or 34 years old. And you know, of course, we would love to keep him around. I'm pretty sure he'll continue to play until he's probably maybe even 35. But at the end of that contract, this whatever one he gets right now, after we finally extend him, when he's 33, 34 years old, we're not looking at potentially making him one of the 10 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. Like, this is the last time for him to really cash in on big money. And I feel like that's where the dispute is right now. I feel like there's like really minute. I mean, now granted, when we're playing with millions of dollars, everything is technically big. But at the end of the day, we're probably disputing over 1 or 2 million. Again, millions, a lot of money. I ain't never seen it. But, you know, but for these football players and NFL teams, you know, they kind of just throw off, you know, 33 million, 31 million, about the same thing, you know what I'm saying? Just like we did with the wide receiver contract rankings that we just looked at. But I agree. I mean, every million, every 100,000 is huge to me, but the NFL is just a different ball game. I mean, this professional money, different. Shouts out to Josh Taylor. He said, my guess is the disconnect on the Terry McLaurin contract is the numbers and guaranteed money. I think that's important too, how much guaranteed money is involved. We've seen anywhere from 30 million to 35 million as a projection. That's a pretty big gap for a guy looking to get his last big contract of his career. I completely agree. But now moving on, I want to talk about why Terry McLaurin is so important and why we need to make sure whatever he wants, just give it to him. I don't know what's holding up these contract talks. I'm pretty sure Terry McLaurin wants a certain number, and I don't know what's going on Adam Peters and those guys and why they have not been able to get him the number that he wants. I don't know where Adam Peters and the Commanders are and Brandon Salsner. I don't know where Terry McLaurin and his agent is, but right now we got to find a middle. And there's a reason why, because I mean, you got to think about the fact that in 2024 alone, Terry McLaurin appeared in all 17 games, even though he was banged up in a couple of them, and recorded 82 receptions on 117 targets for 1,096 yards, 13.4 yards per catch, and 13 touchdowns. Set a franchise record for receiving touchdowns in a season. Out of all burgundy and gold history, all the greats that we've had in our team's history, and Terry McLaurin has already surpassed all of them in touchdowns in a single season. And then shouts out to Jordan Schultz. Add more fuel to the fire. He said offseason programs are critical for young quarterbacks, and as Jaden Daniels looks to build on a strong rookie season, it's surprising that the team hasn't prioritized a new deal for Terry McLaurin, especially after the all-pro wide receiver careers year. And he was second team all-pro last year. Terry McLaurin really made a name for himself. And also, I do want to point out the fact that another reason why Terry McLaurin is so important is that he's been Mr. Consistency. The wide receivers out of the entire NFL, wide receivers with 1,000 plus yards in each of the past 5 seasons. You have Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, and Terry McLaurin. That's literally the end of the list. That's it. And if you want to extend it back to like 7-8 years, it's literally only Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin, which is absolutely insane. And then also, I mean, think about what Terry McLaurin's been through, man. After the quarterback gauntlet he's been through. I mean, look on the screen right now. Everything that he's been through, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're not at any risk. We're going to talk about this very soon. We're not at any risk as far as like losing Terry McLaurin, like him holding out to the point that he's holding out in the regular season, or even worse, wanting to go to another team, demanding a trade or something like that so he can get the money that he feels like he deserves. I don't feel like we're in anywhere near of a range of having to worry about that. But at the same time, man, this has been a staple of your franchise for so long. Look at all of these quarterbacks that he's had to play with, man. He's been through so much. He's stuck with you during the worst times, and now that the times are finally good, you got to make sure you reward them. I know you don't pay guys for what they did. You only pay them for what they're about to do. But I think Terry McLaurin deserves a little bit of what he did in the back end. Just a little bit. Just add an extra little bit of for what you've been through. Even though that wasn't our fault. Adam Peters wasn't here. Dan Quinn wasn't here. None of these guys were here. Jaden Daniels wasn't here. But at the end of the day, man, you got to rock with Terry McLaurin just a little bit for that. And then I also want to show this to y'all as well. Because this offense carried our defense, man. Carried. Look at this stat about how rookie quarterbacks to start in a conference championship game in NFL history, and look at how their defense is ranked. At worst, all of these quarterbacks at least had a third-ranked defense. Jaden Daniels had an 18th ranked defense to work with, and the worst run defense in the entire NFL. Literally 32nd. Like, this is insane stuff. So he did the best rookie quarterback taking his team to a conference championship job ever. Because typically that rookie quarterback gets carried by his defense and the run game that he has. We didn't have much of a run game. Let's also add that to the list. Forget, we could talk about the defense and he's already standing out from that alone. Jaden Daniels was the run game. We didn't have a run game. Brock Purdy, dominant run game. Joe Flacco, dominant run game. Ben Roethlisberger, dominant run game, on top of all of the elite defenses that they had as well. And my point is that Jaden Daniels can't do it all by himself. Terry McLaurin was a huge reason as to how Jaden Daniels was able to carry this team on his back all the way to an NFC Championship game. Jaden Daniels was able to do something that no other quarterback in NFL history has ever done. Carrying an average at best defense all the way to a conference championship as a rookie. And then again, you got to also add the context that there was no run game. We need Terry McLaurin bad. Jaden Daniels needs Terry McLaurin bad. Let's make sure we get this done, man. Let's just go ahead and wrap this up. And so now in conclusion, for real, man, this is really not a big thing, but now it is a thing. I do want to emphasize that this may not necessarily be a really big issue, something that I'm super worried about, but this went from not being a thing. Every time there was a report, I was ignoring it, but today I'm finally now no longer ignoring it. I don't think it's a big thing, but it's still a thing. Shouts out to Mason Kinnahan. He brings up a good point. He said it's easy to come on Twitter and say get it done, but it really should be a no-brainer to give him top-end wide receiver money. Terry is going to be 30 in September, though, so maybe the conflict is the length of the extension. So I'm thinking, of course, annual money, but Josh Taylor brought up guaranteed money, like Mason Kinnahan is bringing up the length of the contract. I can see a lot of those different disputes as to why we haven't gotten it done. It may not necessarily be literally the overall money, 3-year, $90 million deal or something like that. It may not necessarily be the overall. I think the problem is the length, because Terry McLaurin is going to try to get as much money for as long as he can, because again, by the end of this contract, he'll be 33, 34. I think he hopes that he's 34, 35 by the end of this contract. I think he's pushing for a 4-year, 5-year extension. Maybe the Commanders are pushing for only 3 or something like that. And then also, again, like Josh Taylor brought up, the guaranteed money. The Commanders are probably trying to make it very incentive-based to where, if Terry McLaurin starts to get older and he's not playing as well because he's 32, 33 years old, maybe, they're off the hook cap space wise. And Terry McLaurin's like, nah, even if I'm not as good, I want to make sure I have a lot of my money up front and guaranteed so that I make sure I get it, even if I'm not playing as well. And also, really to keep it 100, man, I'm pretty sure this is Terry McLaurin's agent just trying to speed things up by leaking this to reporters, man. Especially this reporter in Jordan Schultz, who was already digging around this Terry McLaurin situation like his family can't eat unless he breaks a Terry McLaurin story, man. He was the first one who made the Terry McLaurin missing OTAs practice even a thing at all. He found out about it way later than the Commanders beat reporters like John Common them found out. So, but he was the first one to blow it up and make it a thing. Oh, Terry McLaurin's missing voluntary practices. Terry's agent knew exactly who to go to with this information to get us talking and worrying about the situation, man. And shouts out to B. Mitch, because he brings up a good point. He said, quote, maybe the agent just saying something right here. I don't think Terry or Adam are saying anything. Agents' jobs are to get conversations started. I just don't see this knowing how Terry is and knowing how Adam is as well, unquote. I completely agree. I don't think Terry and Adam Peters are making this into what it is. This is Terry's agent fueling, adding fire, and Jordan Schultz just being like, let me throw this everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I can get clicks and views today so I can eat. And then shouts out to Al Galdi as well. He said, here are the dates of some notable Washington offseason contract extensions and when they were announced. Ryan Kerrigan, July 29th of 2015. Trent Williams, August 30th of 2015. John Allen, July 27th of 2021. And remember, Terry McLaurin specifically, July 5th of 2022. Remember, today is June 5th. The contract will get done. And don't forget, Samuel Cosme didn't get his contract last year until less than a week before the week 1 regular season game. Like, we're well through training camp. We're through the preseason, and he just got paid right before the regular season. He got paid after the preseason, and technically training camp was over. We're like already doing regular season practices by then. That's when Samuel Cosme got paid. So shout out to George Carmi, because I agree. He said his concern level is a 2 out of 10. I completely agree. This went from being like a 0, 0.5 to a 2, which again means it's a thing, but it's not a big thing at all. And then shouts out to Rio Robinson. Make sure y'all follow him on Twitter, subscribe to him and all of that. We're going to be on the Commanders Kings later on tonight together, all of that, with Louis T, Ed Oliver, all of us, man. But he brought up the fact that, as you can see on the screen right now, this is rinse, wash, and repeat. He'll get his bag. This is the same as last time, just a different regime. Same process, different regime. Because you can remember all the way back in 2022, we had that contract dispute there. He was holding out of voluntary OTAs and things like that. And then the extension got signed, which is the contract that he's currently on right now. New regime, same process, it'll get done. And then on top of that, other teams are also having their super duper major starters and star players missing voluntary workouts as well. I mean, you even have the Ravens. Quarterback Lamar Jackson, safety Kyle Hamilton, wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, offensive lineman Emory Jones, even though that's because of a shoulder, and outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy, inside linebacker Jake Hummel, defensive lineman Nandi Matabuke. All of these guys are missing just the Ravens practices alone. This is just the Ravens team alone. Veterans missing practices because it's voluntary. Myles Garrett just got the biggest bag of all time for a defensive player in NFL history, and he's not showing up to voluntary OTAs. So we really shouldn't overreact to this because, yeah, granted, maybe Terry McLaurin does want his money, but at the end of the day, he may just not be pulling up because veterans just don't pull up to voluntary, like established veterans, stars, guys that make Pro Bowls. Terry McLaurin is a second team All-Pro. Those types of guys just don't go to voluntary OTAs in general. It's not like Kyle Hamilton's in a contract dispute right now. They're just not going to practice just because they're not going to practice. We only worry about Terry McLaurin because there's this added mention that, you know, he is trying to get a new contract. That extra layer of context, of course, makes us be like, well, naturally he must be missing practices because of this contract. We're just connecting the dots there. But veterans miss OTAs all of the time. But things get a little weird because there's rumors going around that the Los Angeles Chargers are really keeping their eye on this Terry McLaurin contract situation, which is weird because they already have Ladd McConkey. Then they went and got my boy Trey Harris out of the draft. They have Mike Williams. I'm about to start naming off people that don't really matter as much, like Quentin Johnson and Jalen Rager and stuff like that. But they have a pretty decent receiver core. I don't think they would ever trade, even if you just say worst case scenario, Terry McLaurin like demands a trade. Never would happen. Like I said, this is a 2 out of 10 problem right now. No way in any way, shape, or form do I see this ever getting to that point. But I don't even think the Chargers would be a team that would make sense to trade for him. There are other teams out there that are far more desperate for a wide receiver than the Chargers are. So that's just a weird rumor. I'm bringing all of that up to say that I'm not even sure if I necessarily even believe that rumor, because why would the Chargers try to trade for Terry after they already got Ladd McConkey and Trey Harris out of back-to-back drafts, I think Trey Harris is going to be a star at the NFL level. He was my favorite wide receiver in this draft class, like my personal favorite. I'm not saying that he was the best, but he was my favorite. He was the guy I wanted us to get bad. So I just already know my Georgia dog, Ladd McConkey, balling out. I think Trey Harris is going to immediately go there and ball out as well. But I don't think they're the type of team that like would give up ridiculous draft capital and then give Terry McLaurin huge money just to get Terry McLaurin. I don't see that at all. So go ahead and discard that rumor, but I did want to throw that out there that is a rumor going around. I've seen it from like 2 or 3 sources now, but I just don't believe it. So I'm just warning y'all now. I'm addressing it here in this video so that y'all know to ignore whatever that is with the Chargers looking at Terry McLaurin for a potential trade. Now moving on to the second half of this video, technically, even though this is going to be way quicker, we got to talk about Javon Kinlaw and Michael Gallup being injured. And is Eddie Goldman quitting on football again? Let's get to Javon Kinlaw and Michael Gallup first. Let's talk about the injuries, because both of them were at the facilities during OTA's practices yesterday or the day before that, but they never went onto the practice field. So they aren't holding out. And of course they weren't, because holding out for what? Michael Gallup is on the ultimate 1-year prove-it deal. He's praying and working his tail off that he even makes the final 53-man roster. So what would he be holding out for? And then Javon just got his bag a couple of months ago. He still has years left on his contract, and he got a way bigger bag than most people feel like he should have gotten. So I already know those guys are not holding out at all. But at the same time, honestly, them potentially being hurt concerns me a little bit more than if they were holding out. Of course, they're not holding out like I've already explained, but I'm not going to lie, them potentially being hurt scares me a little bit more than even if they were. Gallup is one thing. Again, I'm not even sure if he makes the final 53-man roster. Some people feel like he's a lock. I don't know. Ja'Cory Brooks and KJ Osborne, they're all fighting for that last spot potentially right now. But Javon Kinlaw is going to be a very important piece for this defense, and really the team as a whole for this season and seasons beyond. And I don't like hearing that he's already banged up in early June when we haven't even allowed any contact yet. Like he got hurt running around or something. But John Com said that it was something very minor, not to worry about it, very precautionary. But they were saying the same thing about Clelin Ferrell last year, and he was hurt all year on and off. Just a super nagging injury. But it's still, again, something to keep track of, keep in the back of your mind, and hopefully he's good to go. But hey, after June 12th, the end of mandatory minicamps, he'll have over a month to fully recover before training camp starts. So it's nothing right now until it becomes something, and hopefully it won't. But we need Javon Kinlaw to not only be healthy, be on the field, and start for us. We need him to ball out. They're banking on it. You can tell that they're banking on it by how much money they paid him. Again, most people feel like he got drastically overpaid, and I think Javon Kinlaw, I'm working on my video to prove why I think he'll live up to that contract, but most people don't think he will. But hey man, you got to be healthy to prove it. You got to be healthy to go out there and live up to that contract, man. And then moving on, then you have Eddie, already retired and quit football twice, Goldman over there, skipping OTA practices as well. Now with Terry, we've already talked about it. I understand. Already went through that one throughout several videos and just talked about it in this video. And I understand it less with Larry Tunsil and even less with Marshawn Lattimore. But it still makes sense since the practices are voluntary, and on top of that, they didn't used to go to voluntary practices for their previous teams. But a 1-year prove-it deal and already retired and quit on football twice, and Eddie Goldman is a little fishy. And I really hope he was just taking the day off, because I think his ability to play nose tackle is going to be huge for our defense and our ability to go from being the NFL's worst run stop defense in 2024 to honestly a top 10 run defense in 2025. I really think we have the chance to do that. I think that's going to be our biggest improvement from 1 year to the next, our run defense. But Eddie Goldman is a big part of that. You even had our defensive coordinator, Joe Wood Jr., saying yesterday to the media that the front will be bigger personnel-wise this season on first and second downs. Additions like Javon Kinlaw, just absolute huge athletic freak, monstrous type of person. And then Eddie Goldman taking up all of the space in the middle will create better matchups against 12 and 13 personnel when teams are trying to run the ball on us, especially up the middle A gaps and B gaps in between the tackles. And just to remind y'all, we didn't have a true nose tackle last year at all, like a true zero tech type of defensive lineman last year, and it showed big time. Eddie Goldman, when he's locked in, can eat up double teams and allow everybody else on the defensive line to have one-on-ones. And he'll also keep the linebackers like Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louisville, and Jordan McGee clean and offensive linemen free far more often, because they're going to have to literally double team this guy to move him out of the way, which will just leave those linebackers wide open to just go down there and make a play against the run and basically do what they do best. So I'm not saying that we need him in order to win games this season, but he makes winning a whole lot easier, man. And he plays a big part in fixing our team's biggest weakness last year. People are so worried about the pass rush, but we were way worse at stopping the run last year than we were at getting after the quarterback. So I'm just hoping maybe he just took a day or two off. That's what I'm just hoping. I don't exactly know what's going on with Eddie Goldman's situation, but since this was already like a bad news video, I just wanted to go ahead and include everything I could. And Eddie Goldman missing OTA practice is a little weird because now granted, maybe we're overreacting because we're used to our team having 100% participation like they did last year. Most teams don't. The vast majority of the NFL does not have 100% voluntary workout participation like we did last year. So we're kind of spoiled, and that's why we look at everybody that's missing OTA practices, even though they are voluntary, a little weird. But the thing I would add now granted, you can never spend too much time with your family, but y'all are just a week away from having a full month and a half straight just off of no football at all. So I'm like, especially when you're an Eddie Goldman fighting for, technically, I guess, a roster spot, you're on a 1-year prove-it deal. You have to prove to us that you even still care about football after retiring twice. Why are you one of the guys missing practice? I understand Terry. Again, I understand Larry Tunsil a little less, and I understand Lattimore a little less, but I understand those three. And then you have the couple of guys that may be a little banged up. But why are you, as Eddie Goldman on a 1-year prove-it deal, out here missing OTA's practices? I'm really not understanding that one, but hey, man, hopefully it was just a day off. Maybe he's a little banged up, who knows, but I'm hoping that he's ready and good to go because, man, he's going to be a big part of this defense. We missed John Ridgeway last year. Eddie Goldman has the potential to be a better version of John Ridgeway, and we need that bad. He's the type of guy that's going to make Johnny Newton and Deron Payne and even Javon Kinlaw better. Him eating up double teams is going to allow everybody else on the defensive line to see far more one-on-one situations, and that's just going to make everybody a better around him. He may not necessarily ever get the stats. He's usually not going to be the guy getting the sack or even necessarily the run stop, but he's going to be the reason why other people do. So Eddie Goldman, please just lock in, man. Please, that's all I'm asking for. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. The answer to the trivia question, and I did not know this one, so shouts out to y'all elite ball knowers for knowing this one. He used to wear number 41. Shouts out to those of y'all who knew that before I told you and didn't have to research it either, man. Look it up, Google it, whatever. That's elite ball knowledge. Salute to you. And also, if you made it this far in the video, salute to you for that as well. Really appreciate y'all. Make sure you stiff on that like button on the way out. And of course, especially for a video like this one, please let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. How do you feel about the Terry McLaurin situation, Javon Kinlaw, Michael Gallup hurt, Eddie Goldman missing practice as well? Let me know how you feel about everything. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. Let me know how you feel about every little thing. I'm gonna try my best to read or reply to as many comments as possible. I really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I'm out.